This conference will now be recorded.
Oh.
So you are clear with, right?
Yeah, yes.
So throw and throw. You have any doubts in that?
No, I know I reviewed like this morning the difference.
Okay.
Oh, yes. So there are, I think, some question about. Let me open it. Because I checked this morning. Yeah, maybe some quick questions. How can I ask? Can I share my screen to you, Suya? Just you can see my question.
Yes. So you want it's like in kind of coding, then you can share.
Yeah. Actually, it's your code. Because I just reviewed. I had a small review this morning for the code you sent me yesterday. Yeah, and also I watched I reviewed the recording video for yesterday this morning a little bit.
Okay. So let me know what's your doubt actually. Ask.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my doubt is because I want to show you the code, then I can.
Okay.
Then you. Yes.
Just I think I need to make you a presenter.
Yes. Thank you.
I think I have an option over.
I see. I can do that.
Just try to see whether you can able to get the access or. I have forgot that you will have some way here itself to that you made.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think so, because I think only the organizer has the right.
No. You once you have showed me the code, right? So you have a permission to. I should have a permission that I can make you give an access actually, but I'm trying to.
Yeah. I think the first thing you need to put me as a presenter. Yeah. Then I can show. Yeah. Then I can show. Yeah. Yes. Now
So
there, and now I can share.
I was searching.
Yes. Let me share. Just give me one moment. I'm sharing now.
Take care.
Sure. So share. Okay. Now you can see.
Yes, I can see.
Okay, that's good.
Can you maximize the screen?
You want to maximize my screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
I think I need
Sure,
to.
sure.
I have done from my no issues. Yes.
It's okay.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, you see the code. I think my question is because I see yesterday you write the throws here, right? Like method one, where the method one, then you want to throw the exception, right? This code for yesterday. You remember?
Yes.
Okay. So Jane, because I think saw you yesterday, you put this throws exception also sometimes you put here, after the main method, the public static void main. Sometimes you put here, right?
Yes, yes.
So what's the difference? It's the same. No, I don't think it's the same. But we both are allowed, right? Both are allowed. You can put either here or you can put for individual method, right?
So what is the point is here? Throws is the one. What it will do is nothing but it will give the exception. It will throw the exception. Throws is the keyword which will throw the exception. So here, what happened? There is a chance of getting a null pointer exception, arithmetic exception, all these exceptions, right? So what I'm doing, I am throwing that exception. So if you see, throwing means you will not write a throw. You will write throws. Throws exception means I am just throwing this exception to whom I am throwing. I am throwing to the caller. So who is my caller here? Main method, right? So you come down. So because M1 is calling from the main method, right? So exception. So generally exception has to be handled by M1. But what it is doing, it is just throwing that exception to the caller. So now it is your caller responsibility to handle that exception or to throw this exception to the caller. So assume that try to remove try and catch, it will show me an error. You just remove try and catch in the main method. You just comment that try and catch. You can see. Even you have to comment that bracket actually comment before it. Okay.
This one.
Yes. So now if you see, you have commented the try and catch, right?
Yeah.
So come down e1.x1. User save that. Can you maximize? Yes. Can you maximize that?
Maximize this window, right?
Yes. Click on the here.
This one.
Yes. Yes.
No. Sure.
This one I think I can able. Okay, you cannot able to see my screen, right? So in the main method you should get an error. Come down.
Yes, here is an error. You see?
I cannot able to see. Can come down?
You cannot. You are not able to see. Maybe here like this. You see now?
Yes. Can you still come down?
Yes, sure. There is no code. You see?
Okay. I'm not talking about that error. So you just main method. So you remove one bracket. The error is because of that. Remove one bracket.
Remove this one.
Remove one bracket. At the end, remove one bracket.
Yeah. Now you see it's okay. You see?
Yes. Now if you see there is an error, right? At 38 line you have an error, right? So what is that error? Unhandled exception, type exception. So what it is happening from the M1 method, what you are doing, you are throwing that exception, throws exception, you are doing it, right? So so now to whom you are throwing that to a main method, right? So in the main method is responsible of handling that exception or throwing that exception. So you neither have to do anything. You need to throw that exception to the caller of main method, or what you need to do, you need to handle that exception in the main method. You have a two choices. So if you're not doing anything, your compiler will not allow you to compile. So if you click on that red wrong icon, like you have a icon, right?
Yeah.
So that you just click on that. So it will show you the suggestions. Click on that error. You have clicked it, right? So it will show a suggestion. It is not showing for you. Click on that.
Yeah, it's showing for me. Add throws declaration
okay.
or surround with the try catch. Yes.
I cannot able to see. That's the reason I thought it was not showing, because the screen was.
Why you cannot see? You should be able to see my.
Yes. Yes.
I know. I just move a little bit higher, then you can see.
Yes. Yes. So if you see, you click on that, you can see there is an error.
Now you see,
right?
Two, you see?
Yes, I
can.
see.
Yes. That's good.
So if you see, it is asking me to throw that exception or neither have to handle it. Before case, what we done, we have written try and catch. So what you can do, you can write throws also. So you just click on that throws, it will throw that exception. So you understood what is throws there and why you are throwing here. So mainly you're throwing from M1 method. So whenever you are throwing it from the M1 method, it comes to the main method. So in the main method, what you can do, you can neither handle it. So if you write try and catch, it is not required you to throw that exception because you are handling it. So if you don't write try and catch, what you need to do, you need to give that to the caller of the main method. Now what you are doing, you got an exception in the M1 method. What you are doing, you are giving that exception to the caller of the main M1 method. So what is your caller of the M1 method? Main method. So now main method has an exception which was given by your M1 method. Now what main method has to do? It has to give that exception to the caller of the main method, or what it has to do, it has to handle that exception. Before case, you don't return try and catch, that there is no issue. So what you can do, you can either give that exception to the caller. So who is the caller of the main method? JVM. So now we are giving that to the caller and there is no error. So your compiler will not go and see a JVM thing. But here in this case, when you are writing throws, it does not mean that you are handling an exception. Here, if there is any exception comes, there is an immediate termination happens. In this case, you are not handling the exception. But when you write try and catch only, you are handling an exception. You understood Mike, or confusion still?
Yeah, I understood. Just so here, basically here, like you can write here either through exception here, or you can put through exception here, right? For the M1, or you through exception at like in the main method, you can throw exception, right? That's the I mean,
Yes.
both are fine. You can throw here, or you want to throw here.
Yes.
Yeah.
The concept
I mean,
is like
when you don't put a try catch and you need to put a throws exception.
yes. So why? Because M1 is giving an exception. So you cannot. So main method has to do something with that exception. Neither it has to throw the caller, it has to handle. So without doing anything, your compiler will not allow. So generally, your main M1 method is responsible of handling that exception. So it is not handling that. What it is doing, it is delegating it. It is giving that exception to the caller. So now it is caller responsibility.
Yeah. Yes.
Main method responsibility.
Main
So
method. Okay.
what is the reason? What is the reason that you are putting throws here? Because in a main method, because you put throws there. If you don't throw exception there, it is not required you to put throws here. So if you remove throws here, you just remove throws exception here. In it will show an error, right? So
Yeah.
go up, and remove throws there.
This one.
Yes. Come down. Now you will not have error. Why? Because you come down. When you come down, you don't have an error, right? The error which was shown before was not there. Why? Because you are not at all throwing that exception. From M1 method, you are not giving any exception, right? You are not throwing an exception. So then what is the requirement? You will have a throws in main method. It is not required you to handle or throw. That will not be shown. Your compiler will not show anything. You got my point, right? So whenever you are throwing one, you have to handle it, or you have to throw it in a main method. That's it.
Yeah, because so yesterday we talked about the exception pro how to say propagation, yes, and this is also this is the propagation, right? If we have a arrow in the method 1, it will propagate to main method. So in main method you have to handle it, right?
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
I mean, that's the flow, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Fine.
Yes.
I think you should stop presenting, or
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. Now you can able to see my screen, right?
Yes, it's back.
We have seen that throws. Java is used to throw. So whenever you want to create an exception, you use throws is followed by an instance. So this throw is followed by an instance. So I need to write throw with a class in a class new. I'll write throw, but this will be followed in your class name or a method name. I'll write throws, so that there is a difference between your signatures. And we have covered you this, and we have an user defined exception. So I can call this as a user defined exception, or I can say this as nothing but your customized exception. So what is this customized exception is? So generally we have seen an arithmetic exception or null pointer exception, that are the exceptions that your JVM has manual automatically it was built in Java, right? So but generally what you have some kind of exceptions that are nothing but your customized exceptions. So in when you do an application, you manually want to throw an exception, right? So you will have that scenario. For example, whenever you go to an ATM and assume that there is no money in the ATM or there is a bank server issue, what should happen? It should display to you. Okay, there was no there was no money and you cannot able to withdraw, right? So some message has to come to you, right? So it is the way that you are creating an exception. Uh, so you will have a requirement that manually you create an exception. So manually you want to terminate the program. It's like you want to handle it, but you will be terminating that flow of execution, right? So for example, even when you buy something, when you're trying to buy something in Amazon or any card, what happens? For example, there is out of stock, or your bank server is not responding. What should happen? You should get some error message, and the processing should not happen, right? So it should not go to the database of products, and it should not do anything, right? So it should come out of the, because there is some error, right? So there is some exception. So manually there is a chance of exceptions that in your real-time applications. So for that you create a customized exceptions. So so a simple customized exception that I want to, I think I have explained you scanner class, right? No?
Which one?
Scanner class.
What
is a scanner? I have explained
scanner.
you.
Yeah. Scanner. Yes. Full input.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, it is the one where it will take you the input, right? So from the user. So here I want to create a customized exception. So to create a customized exception, what I'll do, I will a lot of disturbance in the screen. I don't know. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
So now I just want to create a customized exception. So how I'll create a customized exception is I just want to create a customized exception like age. So for example, when the user is trying to enter the age which is greater than 18, I'll throw an exception. So for example, I just want to do some voting or something. I'm just considering to do voting, your age should be something 18. So some requirement I have, right? Or you can take some withdraw also. For example, in a bank, I just want to withdraw some, for example, when you go to an ATM and you cannot able to withdraw more than 10,000, I just want to put a limit, right? So for example, if you are trying to withdraw the amount which is more than 10,000, I just want to throw an exception. It's like amount is more than 10,000, some exception I just want to throw, right? So for that, what I'll have a method called withdraw. And so the first thing is nothing but whenever you want to create a customized exception, what you need to do, you need to extend the exception class, or I can extend the runtime exception. Anything is fine. So what I'm doing, I am extending my custom exception class. And what you need to do, you need to write the constructor. What constructor you need to write? You need to write the class, this class constructor. I'm taking a string constructor, right? And the string some str. And what I'm doing, I'm passing super dot this string. So then what it will do, Mike? Do you remember super? What is a super string? So if I take super dots, so I'm taking this constructor. If I call this constructor and if I call super dot str, what will happen, Mike? Do you remember?
Yeah, super str. Super. Yeah, it will call a parent. The parent. Parent. Parent class.
So what will happen? It is going to call the parent class constructor. So what happens? It is going to call your exception.
Yes. Mm.
So yes. So this is so your exception is a parent, right? So it will call this parent class exception that is responsible of creating the exception, right? I
Yes.
think I have showed you the Java API, right, yesterday for you.
Yeah,
No,
Java API.
Java API. So where you can see what are the predefined classes, what are the methods that you can see actually.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm just showing you again. I'm not. So there's a lot of confusion for me. It's like I said you right. So 3 classes. So I don't remembering exactly what.
Oh, yes. I know. Yeah.
For once, for one
Yeah.
batch, I was parallel with you. Like I was completing exception. For one, it is collections. So little confusions for me.
Mm.
You see, Java I typed and API documentation came. So I just showed that in yesterday's class. So it will be where you can see what are the packages, what are the classes you have. So if you
Mm.
see where you have an exception, so this exception is by default present in the LAN package. Why? Because so you know the remember the package concept, right? So
Yes. Package. Yes.
by default your LAN package is imported in every class, right? It is not required me to write a LAN package. So if you see import java.util, you write, right? Similarly, import.java.lan package by default it was get imported. So it is not required you to write that. So what is an exception? Is a predefined class, right? So that is present in your LAN package. And that is the reason you are not importing it. You see, I have written extends exception, but I have not imported LAN because it is by default imported. So you have a LAN package. So you use, I have a LAN package. In this LAN package, you have a class called exception. So you see there's a lot of arithmetic exception and all these other exceptions. So this is a class. So if you see the exception class for this, throwable is a parent, for throwable object is a parent. You can see what are the methods present in the predefined class, and you can go and see. So you can see class extends, exception extends throwable. So this is a predefined class, right? And you can see what are the constructors available and what are the methods available. So generally, you don't remember predefined methods. You have this many packages, this many. You see, in Java has this many packages. So every package will have a lot of classes and a lot of interfaces. Like we don't remember it, right? So you have an API. When you have any doubt, okay, what is a method? What is a parameter? You can go and check it. So now what we are doing here, you have an so these are the constructors. So have a zero parameterized constructor, have a parameterized constructor with of string type, and have a constructor with parameter string as well as throwable. I can have a constructor of throwable. So I have a 4 constructor in your exception class. So from this, what you are calling which constructor? You are calling the constructor of one string, right? So this is a constructor we are calling, right? It constructs a new exception with a specified. You can read what is the purpose of this constructor. So construct a new exception with a specified detail message. This is not initialized or maybe sufficiently initialized by a call to throwable. So the detail message. So this is throwable dot get message. So internally it is going to create an exception for you based on the message that you pass.
So it's like a dictionary, right? And so like a developer can just look into it and just to use it, right? To copy to use this method directly in like in Eclipse.
Yes. So you will have many predefined classes in, right? So as I told you, exception is a predefined class where the Java people has given it to go through this customized exception, or they'll have a lot of. So you don't remember what are the methods available, what are the constructors available. So you can just go to this, like what you said is exactly right. So you can go to this documentation and see what was there inside it, like that. Is it clear, right? So if you see from this, what it's going to call super.std. It will call the parent class string constructor. So what is my parent class string constructor? So it is going to call this. So if you see, this is responsible of creating an exception with the message that you specified. So whatever the message that I'm passing over here, that with that message, it will create an exception. So we have seen arithmetic exception, null pointer exception. We are not creating that exception. What is happening in an application, if you do some mistakes, for example, array index out of, so that are causing an exception. But here what we are doing manually, based on our requirement, we are creating exception. So whenever you want to manually create an exception, this is the process you need to follow. And I have a withdraw method and do it. So what I'll do, ex dot, I'll call a withdraw method. So in this withdraw method, I'll ask the user to enter some amount. So my requirement is if the amount is greater than 10,000, I'll create an exception. So because in a bank, I just don't want to withdraw the amount more than some 10,000 or some. I'm talking about in Indian currency, right? In the amount I'm taking. So you have a scanner class. So this system dot is, I think I told you about scanner class, right? So where it's going to read the data from the user. So for example, if I want to read the data from the user, I'll ask the user to enter them. So here I'll be storing data and amount variable. I'll have an amount variable, right? In this amount variable, I'll be storing that whatever they enter. So sc dot, what I need to use, I need to use xc dot next method. So after storing it in this variable, what I need to do, I need to throw an exception. So I'll just write if amount something greater than, I'm writing 300 USD something. Greater than 300 USD. So I'm talking about string, right? So okay, I'm taking 10,000. So 1,000, 10,000. So if the amount is greater than this value, Okay, sorry, I have a parameterized constructor, right? I need to add. So you see what is the error because I have a parameterized constructor, right? So for that, I should not be creating a zero parameterized constructor. So I need to create, if I'm creating a zero parameterized constructor, I need to write it, right? I think you understood what is the reason of that error, right?
Mm.
So I just want to throw the exception. As I told you, to create an exception, what you use a keyword called throw. Throw new. What I'll do, I will call this constructor, exception exe constructor, and I'll pass that value. Some message I'll write. So do not enter more than 10,000 something. You cannot withdraw something, I'll write message. So this is nothing but I'm an exception. I'm just throwing. So if you see, this is nothing but when I do an extends with exception. So this is my checked exception, right? So what is the meaning of checked exception? What I need to do when I do extends with exception, this is a checked exception. So I told you, right? Checked exceptions are something where handling of that exceptions is mandatory. So how I will handle it? I need to write throws here, or what I need to do? I need to write try and catch. So this is the way I'm just handling that exception, right? I'm just handling that exception. And if the amount is greater than 10,000, it has to throw an exception, and I'm just writing else. If it is not greater than 10,000, and what I'll do, system.println, you can withdraw. So then the exception will not be thrown. Then, so how the flow happens? So your main method gets called, and from the main method, I'm calling a withdraw method, and I'm asking the user to enter the amount. He'll enter the amount, and if the amount is greater than 10,000, what happens? It will be throw an exception, right? Right? You cannot withdraw. I just want the amount should not be greater than 10,000. So if he enters the less than 10,000, I'll just allow the user to take that amount. So now that at that time your exception will not be created. So I'm just running this. So enter the amount. So I'll enter something like 3,000. So what happens? You can withdraw. So there is no exception. If I enter the amount something like more than 10,000, so I'll enter something like 20,000. So what happens? It will throw me an exception. You can see this was an exception got thrown. You cannot withdraw. So and this is nothing but your stack trace. So from where you got an exception? You got an exception from this line, 20th line, and from where it has been called. So it will show everything. So this is how you are throwing an exception, a customized exception. Is that clear, Mike?
Can you please send me the code?
Yes, I'm doing it. Just go through that. Is it clear, Mike, or some confusions you have?
Uh, mm, uh, why we need the new? Well, what's the new? Like through new exceptions. We need a not new
So
through
it's like,
new exception ex.
yes, it is like creating that exception. Throw is the syntax that they have given to create an exception. So when I say, so for example, when you want, so how you will call the parameterized constructor, Mike? I just want to call this parameterized constructor. Forget about this. So I just want to call this parameterized constructor. What I need to do? I
Call
need
is. Mm,
this parameterized. How I'll call that? Exception ex equals to new. So this is how I'm creating an object, right? So now when you want to create an exception,
So it's a object, like object. You
so
create
what
a.
yes. So what I passed that will be called this one, right? So we have learned this in constructor concept, right? So it is nothing but your object creation, right? It is nothing but your object creation. So you can have a reference variable somewhere, also create an object. So but how you are creating? You are creating an object with the throw new, this one. What it will do, it is going to call this constructor, and it, what is the str will have? Str will have the value that you passed. What is the value you passed? You cannot, oh, you cannot withdraw. So that is a value you get over here, and that is a value where you are passing. You're passing that value to the parent class string constructor. So this is your parent class constructor passing this, and it is responsible of throwing that exception. Is it fine?
Yes, yes.
So here, what you are writing, you are writing try and catch, right? So it means you are handling that exception, right? Assume that I have written something system.out.println. I have written something after withdraw method. Withdraw method. So assume that if this line got executed, 43 line got executed. So what does it mean? So your program has not terminated immediately. It means it got terminated properly. It's like every part of the after main method got executed, right? So if this part, if this line was executing, if the 40th line after withdraw method called, if this line is executing, it means that there is no abnormal termination, right? So there is a proper termination happened and every part of your code was executed. So that's what we say. And if that was happened, then we say that we are handling an exception. That is what we are discussing from the beginning, right? Handling an exception, you are not stopping the exception. Handling an exception is something you are making the code to execute entirely. You are making every part of the code to be executed, and you are not making abnormal termination. So if I write a try catch, that handling will happen. So if I get an exception also, the part which in the try class will not execute, but other part will execute. So here if I say enter the amount, I am entering 20,000. What happens? the exception will be thrown, but it was handled. So it means you get after withdraw method called also. It means every part of the code got executed, right? There is no abnormal termination, right? So when you write try and catch, assume that if you are not writing try and catch, and if I write throws, if I write a throws, what happens? You can able to compile the code. So I'm removing the try and catch. So here what I'm doing, I'm removing the try and catch. So now if I remove the try and catch, it will throw me, it will show me an error whether this is a checked exception. So it will say you need to handle it. So I'm not handling it. What I'm doing, I'm delegating. So to whom I'm delegating? Throws exception. So where I'm throwing, I'm just throwing it to the caller of the method. So who is the caller of the main method? Withdraw method, main method. So it will come to the main method. So now your main method got that responsibility to handle that exception. Now, what your main method can do, if I handle in the main method, your abnormal termination will not happen. But if I don't handle it, what I'll do, I will write throws declaration. Then what you are doing, you are just throwing it to the JVM. So now your compiler cannot go to JVM and see that there is a try and catch or throws keyword. So anyhow, your compiler will not bother about that, right? Now you can able to run the program properly. It's like your compilers happened successfully here, right? Now you can run the program. But the issue is here you are throwing the exception to the JVM, right? So JVM will never handle it. So JVM mostly it will not handle it. So what happens? There is abnormal termination will happen. So it means your after withdraw method will not get called. So this line will not get executed. So if I run this, run as Java application. So enter the amount. I am entering the amount something like 2000, 20,000 amount. So if I enter now, now what happens? There is an abnormal termination will happen, and here after withdraw method called not has been not executed. So both the cases an exception was been thrown. But before case, what happened when you write try and catch, the handling of your exception got handled. So every part of the code got executed. If you see after withdraw called also got executed, right? In this case, but you are throwing an exception, it means you are blaming a compiler and you can able to compile the code. But the end result, you will get abnormal termination. So it is not recommended to write throws. So it is recommended to write try catch. So it is recommended to handle the exception. Is that clear, Mike?
Yeah.
So you can take this example also where you are not handling the exception. You can compare the both. I suggest you to save somewhere because it helps in future.
Yeah.
So this is what you can see, user-defined exception. So you can create a user-defined exception in two ways. One is by extending exception, or one is by extending runtime exception. So we have seen with extending by runtime exception, right? So when you do extends with exception, that is nothing but your checked exception. So I need to write try and catch, or I need to write throw. So when you do extends with runtime exception, that is unchecked exception. So it is not required you to write try, catch, or throws, right? So you see, you can, so there are different ways of calling that exception. So if you see, everything is going to call your parent only, but you can create an exception with string parameter, you can create an exception with throwable, you can create an exception with message or class, and the same thing here. It will call exception, it will call exception constructor like this, it will call throwable if you pass. So we have seen it, right? So your exception is having 4 constructors, so you can create exception by using any of the constructor. So we have used this constructor. So if you do like this, it will also create an exception. So if you see, every constructor will create an exception, but how you want to create an exception is up to you. You want to create with null, message, you want to create a message, or you want to have a throwable class where it will have a message, get message and everything. You can have a details like that. So that is your choice. But end of the, what is the purpose of your exception constructor is to create an exception. You have a different constructors, that how you construct exception. Right? Even I think I have shared this slide also, right? No, I have shared yesterday, right?
Yes,
So
you shared.
you can go through that. So it's not only that, you have a lot of exceptions. So we have just seen arithmetic exception or null pointer exception, class cast exception. So whenever class cast exception, I think I have not seen. So whenever we deal with multi-threading, or when we go further, we'll get a lot of exceptions that we'll be discussing it. So it is, so you said that we cannot discuss all of the exceptions, right? You can, there not even this, there are more exceptions than this. This is not the exceptions that you have. So when you do an application, you get a lot of exceptions, right? So one of them is because here, so you can just go through this, like if you have any queries, you can let me know.
Yeah.
Right? So if you see some kind of exceptions, you can just search it in, and you can you will able to know more about that. So you know what is an array index out of bound exception. So you have something like class cast exception is whenever you are trying to do casting, and a lot of the security exceptions. Maybe there is some security reasons, you get some security exception like that, right? So Java has created lot of exceptions. So that's the end of your exception, and it's not like, it means you can please go through this concepts and you can come with many doubts. We'll come back again any doubts in exception. So as of the topics, I'm just winding up this exception topic, right?
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'll be starting. So we'll stop it right now here. We'll pass it
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
So tomorrow I'll be starting new collections. If you want, you can just go through that collections also. What is an array? So I'll be starting tomorrow collections topic for you.
Okay. Collections tomorrow.
Yes, collections, Mike.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Mike. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Suya. So have a good one.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. I